Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole, the 4th District of Oklahoma. It's another one of our congressional weekly chats, and we're actually filming this in the historic Rules Chairman's office in the Capitol building. It's one of the more beautiful rooms in the United States Capitol. I have the privilege of being Chairman of Rules Committee, and we do a lot of work, honestly, in this office. But Congress had an exceptionally busy and I would argue successful week. My focus was on the appropriations process and on what's called the reauthorization of the Federal Aeronautical Agency, FAA. Let's talk about that first. That actually passed the full House, and it's an exceptionally important bill. We do it once every 5 years. Of course, one of the largest federal facilities in central Oklahoma is the FAA facility, the Mike Monroney Center, as it's called, in Oklahoma. And we have over 6,000 of our fellow Oklahomans that work there, either directly for the federal government or as contractors to the federal government. After Tinker Air Force Base, it's the second largest employer in central Oklahoma. And so its structure and funding levels are set in this bill. And assuming it's followed up with appropriations, this is a really good FAA bill. And aeronautics is the second largest industry in Oklahoma. It passed on a huge bipartisan vote. It's nice to see the two parties working very closely together as they did in this one. So this will give a framework for the Mike Monroney Center to operate within. Assigns new missions, new resources there. We did a lot of things to hopefully improve the quality of air travel in the United States over the next several years. Now we've got to make sure that's adequately funded, but this bill is a big step in the right direction. Obviously the Senate has yet to act on this, but it will, and it will go to conference. And again, this is something that of a bipartisan success. Democrats and Republicans work together, resolve most of their differences. Most of these differences, by the way, are regional as opposed to being strictly partisan. A lot of it depends on which airlines happen to have a strong presence in your district. In Oklahoma, American, Southwest, United are major carriers. There's certainly other carriers in the state. We're happy to operate, but we mostly work to try and bolster the interest of those employers. We not only, of course, have a large American presence in Oklahoma City, but the biggest presence is the maintenance facility that they operate in Tulsa that has thousands of Oklahomans that work there, between 4,000 and 5,000. So again, very, very important legislation. The appropriations process, where I focus most of my time, passed two more bills out of committee this week. One of them is the Interior bill. That bill is enormously important in the energy industry because the federal government controls a lot of the energy resources, and it's very important to Native Americans. The largest portion of federal trust and treaty obligations are taken care of in that bill. It was a very strong bill in terms of supporting tribes, so it's good to get that one across the line. And then the other major bill that we had this week was actually one that I chair, which is Department of Transportation, Housing and Urban Development, about a $90 billion bill. So we were happy to get that done. Again, I think some good programs in there, but also some real spending restraint. We came in 9% lower than the president's requested budget. We, I think, spent 1% to 2% less than we did last year, and yet by doing this more efficiently, we're able to make sure that those people that need housing assistance get it and are not removed from their homes, and also able to get some really significant infrastructure investments in Oklahoma. In our district, particularly at Max Westheimer Field, and there's money to lengthen the runways there, to add additional hangars, to beef up the control tower. That bill also funded the contract towers we have in our state, Norman being one of them, but also Ardmore and Lawton, where we have significant air traffic control facilities. So all in all, I think a very good week for our state. A lot of good things for the Oklahoma Department of Transportation there in terms of additional money for the interstate system in Oklahoma and help on some other state highways as well. So again, I would say Oklahoma had a good week. Much more importantly, of course, the country had a good week. The Appropriations Committee funds the government with 12 bills. 10 of them have now passed out of committee. We will hope to deal with the other 2 next week and potentially start moving a couple of them across the floor of the full House next week, although that has yet to be decided. So you're actually seeing Congress working pretty hard. Again, major bill on the FAA being reauthorized, very important in our state, and appropriations bills moving along now at a pretty good clip. So September will be a big month. If we get the other 2 out of committee, then we'll start seeing major pieces of legislation potentially move across the floor. That puts us in position to sit down with the United States Senate, come into a conference with them, hopefully secure funding for the American military and for the rest of the operations of the federal government. So September is a big month in that regard. January, even bigger. We're moving toward that. If you don't have all the appropriations bills done and agreed to, at that point we pass what's called a continuing resolution, or a CR, which keeps funding in place. But honestly, if we don't get the bills done, we'll miss out on an opportunity to give our men and women in uniform the largest pay increase they've had in over 20 years. And again, that's very important in a state like Oklahoma that has 5 major military facilities. Very important in our district, where we have both Tinker Air Force Base at one end of the district and Fort Sill Army Post at the other. They're the 2 largest single site employers in the state of Oklahoma, so getting them adequately funded is enormously important. And we've taken steps in the last couple of weeks toward doing that, but the job's still a long way from done, and we have to the end of the calendar year to actually get it done. So with that, I would expect another busy week next week. It's the last week before Congress moves into the August work period. And so there'll be an effort to put some major legislation across the floor. We'll look forward to chatting with you about that at the end of next week. So in the meantime, good luck, God bless to you and your families. Look forward to visiting with you next week.